Moving east pretty quickly here. Now we're starting to see some concern right around that 80-480 corridor. This is where we have some very intense storm activity showing up. Just checking our text thread here. Our weather team, we just have a little bit of a report coming in from Clay. He's keeping a close eye on this storm as well from the ground, so getting some good ground reports from this. Seeing maybe a little concern for some strengthening here. This is something that we're going to have to watch closely. Right now, still mainly a hail threat, and this is moving out to the east pretty fast, but we're going to watch this storm closely and, of course, stay on it until it clears the area. Very intense activity happening right now. Let's take a closer look at where the hail is right now, because that takes a little bit of time to update. Sometimes it lags behind on the radar just a little bit. So it's still showing the core of that hail way out to the west of where the storm is right now. So we're going to have to revisit that here in maybe 5 minutes, see if it kind of catches up to where the radar is right now. But that live radar picture you can see way out to the east of where it's showing the hail core, and that's certainly not where it is right now. All right, we have another report coming in. This is out of the Ralston area. This was at 8:04, so a few minutes ago, up to 2-inch hail. So this is certainly a storm bringing in a threat for very large hail. I'm not surprised that we've picked up on the potential for some larger hail with this one. This is really intense, a very strong storm, again, tracking all the way out to the east. Let's get the latest update on that one. I'm going to query that warning once again. They have updated that warning text to include the threat for 2-inch hail, just because of how quickly this storm has intensified. We have seen reports of 2-inch hail. So again, that is going to be a concern for us as that continues to track through. I'm going to pull up our tower camera and see if we can see this storm as it moves through the downtown area. This is off of 35th and Farnham. Our Midtown Tower camera, look at that. Really heavy rain pushing through. This is not only heavy rain threat, but also a hail threat as this storm tracks in. Let's take a look at that Children's Hospital camera and Medical Center. Look at the difference. It's a night and day difference. This was just coming down, pouring rain not too long ago, and now the heaviest part of the storm, that has shifted out to the east, so that's again taking a look at our tower camera out at 35th and Farnham. That's just going to take a minute to load here. That's where the heaviest rain is falling now. So this is trying to load. Here it is. Horrible visibility. We have very, very heavy rain falling right now. And it's not just that rain threat. Again, it's the hail threat. We're talking about a potential for a lot of lightning here as well as these storms track in. And we do have another round on the way later on tonight. I do want to make sure that you don't let your guard down once this one cell passes through. We are going to have that threat again for some more heavy rain, hail, lightning, wind later on tonight with a second wave that pushes in. But it's these first isolated cells that bring in the highest hail threat. So as far as 2-inch hail, I don't think we're going to see that threat return again tonight. But once this cell passes through, we still have that potential for some stronger activity making its way in. But this 2-inch hail threat, once this storm clears, I don't think we're going to deal with that threat again in the metro tonight. I think we'll have that chance for some smaller hail, as well as some gusty winds and heavy rain with our later evening storms. But let's take another look here at this one and talk about that hail concern. Last time we looked at our hail tool, it was lagging a little bit. Now it's kind of caught up. It's always about one scan behind on radar. So think of this as a picture from about 5 minutes ago of where the heaviest, largest hail was. This is a huge area. And again, everywhere that we have these purples showing up, 2-inch hail is a real concern. We have seen reports of 2-inch hail move through. So this is not just a possibility with this storm. This is something that it's actually producing. So I'll go over some of those reports again for you. Around the Ralston area, report of 2-inch hail a little bit earlier. That was at 8:04. As we move a little bit further into the past, out at Millard, we had a report at 7:56 of quarter-size hail. Let me go ahead and check the Twitter thread once again, see if there's any new reports coming in. And we do have some new reports. Ping-pong size hail, 8:14. That was only 2 minutes ago. Out at 48th and Grover. Lauren Taylor, she's out in the Old Market right now. She has just tweeted a picture. I'm retweeting it right now. It's actually a video of some small hail falling there. See if we have any new reports coming in. Another report, someone tweeted me, 480 JFK, JFK interchange. Looks like some small hail. 41st and California, small hail, so not quite that larger hail in that area, which is great news. And 95th and West Center. Hail ranging from 1/2 inch to 1.25 inches, with a few that were on the 1 3/4 inch range. So we're picking up on a very large hail threat, and this is all confirmed. Another picture coming in, let's see, location's unclear, but it's quarter-size hail for sure. So through the metro, we are dealing with that threat for very large hail. Let's take a zoomed-in view of where this storm was producing large hail about 5 minutes ago. Because again, the estimated radar hail size, that lags a little bit behind the actual radar picture. So kind of think of this as a preview of what's coming your way. So South Omaha, just getting nailed with this. We have a large area really stretching all the way from F Street near 75 all the way south to Harrison Street. That is bringing in the threat for some large hail. And then again, as of latest update, we are dealing with more hail stretching a little bit further out to the east. So out along the Veterans Memorial Highway, we're picking up on some large hail at the moment. And again, let me query this. I'll pull up our hail tool, and this is estimating 2-inch hail. So not surprised that we still have that large hail threat. We're starting to see that threat for large hail exit Omaha, exit South Omaha, but the heavy rain, that is on its way in to portions of western Iowa. So if you're in Council Bluffs and watching this and wondering, is this going to make its way into my area? It looks like it's going to clip you. So let's go ahead and pull up the last 15 minutes on a loop so you can kind of see the motion of this storm. That's what our radar loops are so good for. It can really show us where this storm is headed next and exactly the track that it's taking. So in terms of a hail threat for Council Bluffs, it's this section here that I would be most concerned with. Looks like we do have a little bit of something intensifying here off to the north as well. So go ahead and pause that. We can zoom in. So as we move into the Council Bluffs area, we do have a little area that I think has a higher risk to pick up on some hail, some larger hail, potentially up to 1 inch. Maybe that 2-inch hail threat stays just down to your south, but we do have the potential for some large hail here in this area, stretching from 23rd Avenue north to Avenue G. And this is going to be mainly between, let's pull this up here. All right, my radar quit on me. Let's zoom back in. Again, this is going to be between about 35th Street and 16th. So this is where we have the highest hail threat here. It's really going to run all the way up to the expressway, that large hail threat. And then as we move down to the south, that's where we're going to have more of that concern. So as we move closer to 275, this is where we have a threat for some of that 2-inch hail to move on through. Let me pull up the National Weather Service chat and see if we have anything new here. '87 and Q Street, we had a report of some very heavy hail with power lines down. We have a report of almost 3/8 inch hail covering the ground in South Omaha. I'm not sure if that was a typo on their part, but some heavy hail covering the ground in South Omaha. Ping pong ball size hail again at 48th and Grover. That was as of 8:14. Let me go ahead and pull up the Twitter here and see if there's any new reports coming in my way or just in general. It's always a great resource. Seen a lot of pictures of just deep hail on the ground. So there are many areas that picked up on not only large hail, but a lot of small hail. And that can be a big concern as well. This is where the storm is now, and through Council Bluffs, there is a little bit of a threat for some large hail coming with this, but it's not as high of a threat as it was moving through the Omaha metro area. As we move south of Council Bluffs, we're starting to see a little bit more of that intense activity. Let's go ahead and query the warning and see if there's any new updates. Still worded for 2-inch hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds. Looks like they've just updated that. And as of that latest update, still a concern. It's moving east at 30 miles per hour. Again, that potential for 2-inch hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. The good news is the core of this storm is keeping mainly down to the south of Council Bluffs. So that's certainly good news in terms of potential impact. But it is going to be still an area of concern for us here as we move through the evening. And they've really extended this warning way out to the east. They're not expecting this storm to lose any strength anytime soon. Let's go ahead and track this out through time and see when it might reach your area. So we have this at 30 miles per hour, and we'll go ahead and pull this out to the east here for the next hour or so. So we're expecting an arrival around Trainer, around Carson, and this is going to be right around that 9 p.m. time frame. So a little before 9 for Trainer and just after 9 around Carson. And assuming this all holds together, that's going to bring in the threat for 1-inch hail, or I should say 2-inch hail, and 60-mile-per-hour winds. So very strong storm here as this all pushes through. And we are seeing a couple of reports, videos coming in that do show some signs of rotation here with this storm. The National Weather Service hasn't issued anything in terms of potential tornado wording on it, but it is something that we're going to watch really closely here. Let me pull up the radar velocity so we can see what's going on here. So you can see that we do have a little bit of a mix of things going on right now. We do have some of these reds showing up very close to these greens. So that is showing some potential rotation here. Excuse me, I'm just going to get a drink of water. So that is showing the potential for some rotation and really explains what we're seeing through pictures, through videos, showing a little bit of spin on this storm. This is really a strong system here. And right now, the National Weather Service hasn't said anything related to any concern for potential tornado development. It is something that bears watching because we do have some signs of rotation on this storm. But at this moment, not something that we're seeing any signs of tornado development. Let me pull up our Children's Hospital camera, see how things are shaping up out there. You can see some signs of clearing. And pulling up our 35th and Farnham. This is our Midtown Tower camera. We are still looking at some very dark skies, but less of that heavy rain moving through. So that heavy rain, that is now making its way out to the east of Omaha. We'll zoom back in here and see what's going on. We have pretty much cleared across most of the Omaha metro. We are still dealing with some heavy rain near Council Bluffs, especially down to the south, and we're still dealing with a hail threat as this all tracks through. So as of the latest estimated hail track, you can see some huge differences here. We can actually loop this over the last 15 minutes here. I'll go ahead and pull it out for the last 30 minutes. And as we zoom out, you can see it was really intense, and now we're starting to see it lose a little bit of that strength. So let's zoom in on it and talk about who could be dealing with some of that larger hail right now. So right out along 29 and Wabash, right in between that corridor there, we're dealing with that threat for some larger hail. And radar currently estimating that still at about 1.5 inches, so it's coming down, but it's still very, very large hail concern. We do have a report of pea-sized hail coming in from Council Bluffs, so that hail, again, as I mentioned, for Council Bluffs, going to be on the lower end compared to what's happening south of your area. And one from about 10 minutes ago at 42nd and Center Street in Omaha. A lot of water in the streets and about 1/4 inch hail just finishing up after about a 10-minute event. So this has been kind of a really intense 10 minutes for a lot of people as these storms have made their way through. Again, we're still tracking that threat for some large hail as these storms make their way through just south of Council Bluffs. So the good news is Council Bluffs, for the most part, spared from that large hail threat. And now as the latest radar update kind of shows this all making its way toward Trainer, starting to clear the Council Bluffs area. And as we take that zoomed out view, you can certainly see we are dealing with diminishing storm threat out across the metro, but we do have more moving in out to the west, so this is something that we're going to keep a close eye on here through the night tonight. Let's take a look at some of those storms that are out to the west, because this is kind of a preview of what could be moving in as we go through the next several hours. So this storm here, this is near the David City area. I'll go ahead and pull up that query tool. We're talking about 60-mile-per-hour winds, 1.5 inch hail. And this is all moving out to the east at 30 miles per hour. So a lot of intense storm activity out there, and it's really a huge hail threat, but we also do have an isolated tornado threat, and I do want to talk about this tornado warning here. This includes Schubert. Let's pull up that query tool and get you the latest on this warning. This is radar indicated rotation, so not a confirmed tornado at this point. This is bringing in the threat for quarter-size hail, strong wind gusts. It's moving southeast at 35 miles per hour. This is a very strong storm as well, bringing in the potential for some tornado development. Let's take a look at our wind velocity here, and this is going to show us the area of rotation. Very clear area of rotation. This is near Schubert. So Stella, Schubert, Barada, you'll want to get into your safe place, get into the lowest floor of your house, a room away from windows, an interior room as this tracks through. Very clear area of rotation right here. You can see it very clearly here on radar. This is bringing up the potential, again, for tornado development. Right now, only radar indicated rotation. Haven't seen any reports of that on the ground. but it is something that bears watching because we do have very clear signs of rotation here. Again, this is all moving out to the east, and we'll pull up so we can see the speed on that. It's moving southeast at 35 miles per hour. So let's go ahead, zoom out here, and I'll pull up my tracker tool so we can talk about some potential arrival times. This is moving at 35 miles per hour. I'll set it right on that area of rotation and pull that out for the next 24 minutes. Estimated arrival time around Schubert, you have about a 5-minute heads up, so you want to make sure you are seeking shelter as this storm approaches. Very clear signs of rotation here, and it'll make its arrival around the Barada area at about 8:43. So keeping a very close eye on this as we continue to track a very developing situation here. A lot of severe thunderstorm activity out there right now, and we have more potential on the way as we move through the night tonight. So let's go ahead and talk about some of those storms out across the area, particularly that one that is exiting the metro. We are still talking about that threat for large hail, very strong wind gusts, and heavy rain as the storm pushes in. This is all moving out to the east, so for most of the metro, this storm, at least the storm threat from this, is done. We do have more coming our way out to the west, but around Trainer, Silver City, Macedonia, you are not in the clear just yet. These storms making their way out to the east at about 30 miles per hour. So let's go ahead and track this out for some potential arrival times. So I'll pull this out for the next 30 minutes or so. All right, not picking up on any of the cities here, so let's try that one more time. Zoom back in. There we go. It should hit Carson at about 9:08. So we're going to see some potential for some larger hail into the Trainer area at about 8:44. Taylor, 8:54. Carson, 9:04. And let's pull on the southern edge of that. Silver City at about 8:48, and Henderson 9:08. So we're picking up on the threat still for some very large hail with this as it all tracks through. Just got a report on Twitter, a lot of 1/4-inch hail hitting us on Bluebell Lane in Council Bluffs. So 1/4-inch hail about 2 minutes ago, that was the report. Checking National Weather Service chat here. Another report coming in out of Council Bluffs, just down to the east-southeast of the city center. 1.5 inch hail reported, and that was south. So south of Council Bluffs, that's where we have had that heaviest rain. Still plenty of activity on its way in from the west. This is going to be a very active evening for us. As we take a look at what's happening out to the west, it's not quite as intense as what just rolled through the metro, but we do still have that potential for more large hail, gusty winds, heavy downpours as we move through the night tonight. There's a lot of fuel for these storms to work with, and as we put this into motion here, this is a look at the last hour. We're picking up on just a lot of moisture in the air, a lot of storms moving in from the west, and this will continue to fuel our storm threat here well into the night. We have that potential for storms past midnight. In fact, we do have a severe thunderstorm watch out, and that's going to run until 1 a.m. That covers most of the area, so that is something that we're certainly concerned with. Just retweeting the picture that someone tweeted me out of Midtown. A ton of hail. It looks like there's a mixture of about maybe a little less than quarter-inch hail to pea-sized hail, and this was in the Midtown area of Omaha and just got hit with huge round of hail. So this has really been a very active storm for us and continues to be a very active storm. We're starting to see a little bit of activity develop just out to the east of Plattsmouth here. This storm right here kind of developing south of the one that we just tracked through the metro. And this is starting to strengthen as well. So with these initial cells that are firing up, they are bringing in a really large hail threat. So 1 to 2 inch hail, not going to be out of the question here. As we take that wider view, still dealing with that tornado threat with this storm near Schubert. So let's revisit this one here. We're picking up on a 1 inch hail threat as well as the potential for tornado development. We have radar indicated rotation. This warning runs until 9 o'clock, so a little less than 30 minutes left on this warning here. Let's go ahead and pull up our wind speed velocity, and we're still seeing a very clear area of rotation, and this is right over Schubert. And you do want to make sure you're still in your safe place at this point. The storm's right over you. Still very clear signs of rotation with this. Near Schubert, on its way toward Barada. So again, make sure you are seeking shelter as this tracks through. So far, no reports of a tornado on the ground, but it's something that we're going to have to continue to keep an eye on here as this storm keeps on making its way out to the east-southeast at about 35 miles per hour. Let's go north, back to the storm in the metro. Still seeing a little bit of rotation on this. No signs of tornado development with it, so that's the good news here. Very strong wind gusts, though, coming along with this. As we pull up that tracker tool, as far as wind, we're talking about some strong gusts at this point. As we move out to the east, or I should say the west, we do have some stronger gusts coming in. Let's pull up the query tool on this. Gusts right now between Wahoo and Saros. That's going to be between about 50 and 60 miles per hour. Gusts near David City around 50 miles per hour. Still getting a lot of reports in, some old reports from the storm that moved through Omaha, a lot of reports of hail. So again, this is bringing in a definite hail threat as all of this tracks through. Let's go ahead and zoom back in on that storm near the metro. It looks like it's losing a little bit of intensity here, but again, we are still dealing with that threat for some large hail out near Silver City as the storm continues to make its way out to the east here. So let's query this and see if there's any new updates on this particular warning. And they have dropped it back to 1 inch hail. So no longer a 2 inch hail concern, but still a large hail threat. We're talking about 60 mile per hour winds, quarter size hail as this moves east at about 30 miles per hour. And then we're going to have to keep close eye on this storm out to the west of the metro. Another potential round moving in. This is out near Valparaiso. Let's take a look at maybe some hail with this cell. Not really surprised that we're seeing it. This is picking up on 1.5 inch hail with this storm near Valparaiso. And as we query this warning, this is moving out to the east at about 30 miles per hour. So I'll pull up our radar tool here and zoom out. And let's track this out for, let's say, the next hour. This is going to bring an arrival into the west end of the metro right around that 9:30 time frame. So we could have another round moving in here if it holds together in the next hour or so. So in less than an hour, we might have another round possibly making its way back into the west end of the metro. So this certainly could bring another hail threat to us later on tonight. As we've been saying, we do have the potential for another round of severe weather into the metro late tonight, and that threat will continue on into the very early morning hours Wednesday, probably wrapping up around 1 a.m. So let's take a look at the latest run here of one of our short-range models and talk about what we could be seeing here as the night goes on. So as we advance to about 9:30, 9:45, you can see another round pushing into the metro. So this is certainly a possibility from some of that storm activity that we have out to the west. Let's move a little bit further ahead in time as we jump to about 11 p.m. Most of the storm activity, at least the strongest activity, will either be working through far southwestern Iowa or developing around Beatrice, so southwest of the metro. As we advance to about midnight, everything kind of staying south. So our main window of concern for the metro, that's going to be up through about 10, 11 p.m. at the latest. South of the metro, however, that storm threat for some larger hail will continue all the way up through about 1 a.m. at the latest, and then this all kind of clears out from there. But in the meantime, we do have that potential for some strong activity to be making its way on through. Several warnings to go over still. I want to revisit that tornado warning that we have going near Schubert. Let's pull up that wind velocity here. And we are still seeing that rotation right over Schubert. So although the core of this storm, you can see where we have the most powerful section of the storm, that is just off to the north and east of Schubert, and it's north of Barada. We are dealing with still the signs of rotation right near Schubert. So the rotation hasn't really moved. So Schubert, you are still dealing with the potential for tornado development. We're still talking about that threat for some rotation here. Again, no confirmed reports of a tornado on the ground, but we are still seeing that threat for potential tornado development. So you need to stay in your safe place until this storm has cleared the area. So we're going to keep a close eye on that as we continue to track these storms through the night. All right, let's zoom back out here and talk about this storm near York, because there is a tornado warning on it. It's just the tornado warning, at least the next impact, is going to be just outside of our viewing area, but there is still some high impacts just south of York. So let's talk about the potential rotation with that. You can see the signs of rotation are very clear here. This is just around the McCool Junction area, in between McCool Junction and Fairmont. So let's query this warning and see what they have to say about it. Threat for a potential tornado, as well as 2-inch hail. So some very large hail also going to be a concern with this storm. Again, the main impacts of this are going to be just outside of our viewing area, but we still have some strong activity out to the west we want to keep an eye on, because everything's kind of moving east and bringing us that storm threat as we move through the night tonight. This is going to be moving southeast at 30 miles per hour, and a big concern with this, outside of that threat for some tornado development, is going to be some large hail. And they have started to extend the severe thunderstorm warning portion of this storm down to the south and east because of that continued hail threat. So let's go ahead and query this. We're talking about 60-mile-per-hour winds, 1.5-inch hail. This is moving through Saline and Seward counties. This is going to run until 9:45. So this warning is going to be in effect for the next hour because of that large hail threat. Also still dealing with some concern here for some storms developing just out to the west of the metro. We're picking up on that threat for some large hail near the Valparaiso area. And this is all tracking out to the east. Let's pull up our hail tool here. Can see where that core is. It has moved just out to the east of Valparaiso. This storm, again, I believe this was the one that was moving east at about 35 miles per hour. It has slowed down to about 30 miles per hour as of the latest update, bringing in the threat for 1.5-inch hail. That's ping pong ball size hail. And this is going to impact many communities, including Meade, Valparaiso, Wahoo. This is going to stay in effect for another 30 minutes until 9:15. So let's pull up that radar tool once again and look at the track that this storm is taking here. Let's go over the last 15 minutes and put this into motion. You can see general track out to the east, a little pull down to the south. So if that pull down to the south holds, we might miss out on the highest impact from this particular cell in the metro. But watch what's developing just out near the radar site near Valley, south of Valley. This is near Utan. Let's pause it. This is moving a little bit to the southeast. So as we put that into motion, you can see the track of this cell right here. This is what I'm talking about. This very well could move through the metro. And let's pause it and see if we have any hail with this storm right now. All right, seeing the first signs of some hail development, and with the radar so close to this storm, there is the potential that we are seeing the radar underestimate the hail size. So let's query this and see what the radar thinks the hail is. It says it's a little bit over 1/2 inch. So there's the potential, not necessarily a guarantee, but the potential that we're actually seeing some slightly larger hail with this storm. Maybe a little bit over 1/2 inch, maybe closer to that 3/4 inch range, just because of the proximity to the radar site. You can see here as we pull it up, the radar right here and this storm right here. It's not too far away. So this is going to continue to bring in the threat for some larger hail, potentially into the metro once again. No signs that we are picking up on another 2-inch hail threat from that particular cell as it moves in, but it bears watching. There's that potential that we continue to see a little bit of strengthening there as this continues to make its way out to the east. So let's go over here the track of this storm. This is the last hour, and you can see we just got done with a powerful round of storms, and we have the threat for maybe another one to make its way on in. So over the last 15 minutes, as we shorten that loop up a little bit, really want to keep a close eye on this storm here, just south of our radar site in Valley. That's going to bring in the threat again for maybe another round of hail-producing storms into the metro. This is something we'll have to keep a close eye on here as we continue to see some development on this. All right, we have meteorologist David Keller getting ready to join me in some coverage here. Let's go ahead and pause that and pull up our hail tool once again. Starting to see a little bit of some signs on radar here of some larger hail possible just out to the west of Elkhorn. This is estimating the hail size at just under 1 inch. So what I was talking about a little earlier, that we might be seeing some closer to 3/4 inch hail, that's definitely a possibility. And this is moving into the Waterloo area. It'll be on its way into Elkhorn here pretty soon, around Skyline. So we are not done with that threat for strong storms into the metro tonight. In fact, we have another round potentially moving in. This one does not look as strong as the one that moved through earlier, but it is certainly strengthening, and that is going to bring us that threat for some more strong activity here through the night tonight. So as we put this back into motion here, This is the last 15 minutes. You can see the track that this storm is taking, and we can add some lightning to it. And this is bringing in another round of lightning, another round of heavy rain, potentially another round of some hail. And speaking of hail, we did just get a report on that storm out near Valparaiso, where there was a report of 1 3/4 inch hail. So this is another large hail producing storm just out to the west of the metro. This one a little bit more to the southwest of the metro.
Yeah, that storm to the southwest in southern Saunders County, northern Lancaster County, Emily, is certainly pretty impressive right now. That report came in from right underneath the hail core, just to the west of Ceresco, and that is certainly where there could be some pretty large hail. Some of those radar returns are almost off the charts at this point right now. So that is a pretty strong storm, kind of similar to what moved through the metro just over the last half hour when we got that 2-inch hail report out of the Ralston area. So these storms, thankfully, not rotating quite enough to be producing any tornadic threat, but the hail threat is certainly very, very significant with these thunderstorms.
Yeah, definitely something that we're watching very closely. And I'm talking to my producers in the booth. Is there any way that we can pull up David's weather computer so he can kind of show everyone what he's talking about? All right, they're working on pulling up David's computer here. But as we look out to the west, let's see where our Children's Hospital and Medical Center camera is looking out to. I believe it's still pointed out to the west. We should be getting a good view of some of those storms that are on their way in.
Yeah, that storm on the west side of the metro, it has perked up quite a bit as it moves into town. Typically, when we have multiple storms move across the area like that, but does look like it is begin to kind of kick up a little bit. So we come into the Omaha area, and there you can see just west of the west side of Elkhorn there into Waterloo. Certainly seeing some very, very heavy rain, if not some small hail coming down Waterloo down to the Center Road here. Just on the west side of Elkhorn, we're seeing that potential for some heavy rain and perhaps some perhaps some hail as well. Not sure exactly how large that hail would be, perhaps maybe as large as quarters, but certainly something we're going to keep an eye on. Here's one of those hail reports from the Ralston area from a short time ago when we did get a report in of 2-inch diameter hail. So that's why we've been with you here for so long, because these storms are producing potentially life-threatening hail if you get caught out in some of these storms with that kind of hail coming down. That can certainly be very dangerous if you're caught out in it. The strongest storm right now near Ceresco, right along Highway 77 north of Lincoln. This is northern Lancaster County, southern Sarpy County. This is where we did get in that report of some golf ball-sized hail out of Valparaiso. I would not be surprised if there is some 2-inch diameter hail coming down here, Highway 66, Highway 77 here, southern Saunders County into northern Lancaster County. Some very, very impressive hail returns. Anytime you see the white on our radar, and we're talking about a thunderstorm, that's usually a sign that there is some either very large hail coming down or lots of hail coming down. And in this case, it may be a combination of both. We saw this same signature right here over the metro, and that's when we got 2-inch diameter hail, and that's also when we got hail that was completely covering the ground here in Midtown. So we come back into the metro. Elkhorn, we are seeing this storm moving into your area right now. Potentially some large hail there. We don't have a severe thunderstorm warning, so at least some hail. I would say at least some pea-sized to nickel-sized hail there. 275 in Dodge right now in Elkhorn. So we're going to continue to keep our eye on that. We did have a new severe thunderstorm warning. This is going to be for the Red Oak area. Let's see, southern Pottawatomie County into Mills County and Montgomery County. New severe thunderstorm warning is now in effect until 10 p.m. So this is areas from Henderson over to Red Oak. Let's see, Elliott, Villisca also included in that severe thunderstorm warning. Malvern, Tabor included as well. Some quarter-sized hail to perhaps half-dollar-sized hail possible with this storm as it continues to track to the east and southeast. So this is going to be moving out of Malvern here shortly, but Red Oak, you are going to be under the gun here probably in the next 15 to 20 minutes. So that continues to be a large hail threat moving into Montgomery County right now. So we'll go ahead and zoom back out to the west side of the metro where we are tracking these strong thunderstorms. Let's see, new severe thunderstorm warning. Let me check where this is real quickly here. Okay, so this is going to be down in northwestern Missouri. So it looks like portions of Holt in Atchison County now under a severe thunderstorm warning. So we'll come back up into the metro area and zoom on into these strong storms right now in Saunders County and then on the west side of the metro. Emily, any more reports coming in just yet?
No, I've been checking Twitter. I've been checking National Weather Service chat, and I haven't seen any new reports. I was looking in particular for any reports that we might be getting in from that storm moving toward Elkhorn. I expect we'll get a few viewer reports coming in once that storm pushes through Elkhorn, but I was looking for anything that maybe was coming out of the Waterloo area to see if we were picking up on some small hail with that. Really wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing maybe at least some dime to nickel size hail with this one.
Yeah.
But right now, certainly looks like less than 1 inch hail with this one at this point.
I would expect it's producing a fair bit of hail. Now, I do want to pass along that we just got in a report that the hail was breaking windows in the Valparaiso area. So that means that this storm right now, southern Saunders into northern Lancaster, just to the north of the Lincoln, is a very significant thunderstorm near Ceresco, right on Highway 77, right on top of Davie. We did get a report in that the hail was breaking windows in the Valparaiso area. So Ceresco and Davie, you are under the gun right now. Need you to be in a safe place away from windows. As this storm rolls on through, we could be talking about golf ball sized hail, if not larger, coming through Ceresco and Davie right now. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning now for the metro once again.
All right, yeah, not surprised that they issued one on that. Let's see what that criteria is. Let's go ahead and pull up the query on this. That's for 1 inch hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds. This is moving out to the east at 35 miles per hour. So go ahead and zoom out on this, and we can use our tracker tool to talk about maybe the potential arrival time for a few locations here. So I will go along the leading edge of this storm here and pull it out for the next 37 minutes or so. So estimating an arrival around Boys Town in the next 10 minutes. We'll be in Millard shortly after that, 9:08. Around Ralston, 9:18. La Vista, right around that same time frame. And moving into downtown Omaha, right around 9:24 and into the TD Ameritrade Park at that time as well. Shortly after 9:30, we're expecting an arrival into Council Bluffs. So again, 1 inch hail, a threat with this. Could see that potential for it to strengthen a little bit more. I would be surprised if we have another 2 inch hail event moving through the metro after we just had that round. We've cooled down a little bit, but I do think that hail, of course, still going to be a big concern with this one. So let's go ahead and zoom in on it and talk about that hail threat.
It does look like it's really kind of taking the same track as this previous storm. I have on my screen overlaid the hail reports from the first storm, and you look at the path of this one, and it's almost identical. So areas that just saw that large hail come through a short time ago, you may be seeing another round of hail come through. I don't think, as you were saying, it's going to be as large, but certainly still some damaging hail potential in the same areas that just got some of that hail. I am seeing a picture on Twitter here from that storm earlier with some hailstones nearly tennis ball sized. So that's at least 2 inches in diameter from that first round of storms. So we're still getting in reports of hail that came down as large as 2 inches in diameter, perhaps slightly larger than that. So there was certainly some damaging hail that moved through the metro, and now those same areas potentially dealing with some of that hail once again.
Yeah, it's going to be something that we are watching closely as this next round makes its way into the metro here. Taking a look at the hail right now, we pulled up our estimated hail tool, and as I mentioned, this usually lags behind the radar by about 5 minutes. So it's kind of a past view of where the largest estimated hail was and kind of a preview of what could be moving through and the progression of this storm as it continues to make its way out to the east. And this was estimated a hail size right around an inch just out to the west of Elkhorn. So in the Elkhorn area now, you are picking up on that threat for 1-inch hail toward the Skyline area. Very similar picture here, and it's right along Dodge, and this is tracking out to the east. So out along the Dodge corridor, that's really where we have that highest hail threat at the moment. We could see that threat expand a little bit as time goes on and this storm continues to progress out to the east. And as this storm kind of makes its way east and moves a little bit further away from the radar, we're going to have a better and better picture of what's going on with this storm and the progression of it as it continues to move east and potentially strengthen or maybe break up a little bit here. So we'll keep a close eye on it.
And still watching that thunderstorm in the Ceresco area into Davie, just north of Waverly right now, still showing signs of some to southern Saunders County into northern Lancaster County. Again, we had that report of golf ball sized hail in Valparaiso, and we had reports that it was breaking windows in southwestern Saunders County. So this remains a dangerous thunderstorm as it moves into the Waverly area, approaching Highway 6, approaching I-80. If you know anybody that's on I-80 between Omaha and Lincoln, tell them to get off the interstate and find some shelter right now, because we don't really want anybody driving through a thunderstorm that has hailstones up to 2 inches in diameter. So certainly want people along on the interstate on Highway 6 between Omaha and Lincoln, really in the Ashland and Waverly areas to go ahead and find some shelter. You know, pull off at one of the rest stops or just get into town into a gas station or something like that, because this is going to be producing some pretty large hail as it crosses Highway 6 and as it crosses I-80. And we don't want people stopping under overpasses, because that can be dangerous for people driving by who might not be able to see you. Blocking up traffic is not something what we want people to be doing if this does continue to produce large hail as it crosses the I-80 corridor there. Looks like it's going to cross between Ashland and Waverly as it continues to push to the east and to the southeast in this general direction. So Highway 6 between Ashland and Waverly, I-80 between Ashland and Waverly. If you know anybody out there on the road right now, really want them to kind of pull off the road and find some shelter if they can as the storm continues to cross the interstate. In the metro, of course, we continue to monitor this thunderstorm in Elkhorn right now, 204th and Center, 204th in Maple, that general area, potential for some quarter-sized hail. Again, this does not appear as strong as the first round of storms that came through, so that's some good news. But certainly some quarter-sized hail, some damaging hail, not out of the question as this continues to roll its way across the rest of the metro right now, Emily.
Yeah, and definitely a lot of lightning coming along with this storm as well. That's going to be a big concern for us as this storm pushes in. So we've been talking a lot about that hail threat, but again, not a good time to be out and about, even though it's not as strong as the last round that pushed in. Let's pull up our lightning tool here, and you can just see how much lightning we're dealing with this storm around Elkhorn, stretching down to the south. We're picking up on a lot of lightning strikes kind of centered over this area here, right over West Center Road. And this is all kind of pushing out to the east here, bringing in that threat not only for heavy downpours like what we just saw, also some hail, 1-inch hail with this latest round that's pushing through. So it doesn't look quite as intense as what we were seeing with our earlier round. But again, with some of that saturated ground that we have left over from the weekend, from this round of storms that just pushed through, and now another one on top of that, I mentioned that there might be a little bit of a localized low flooding threat with that first round that moved through just because of that heavy rain. Well, we do have that same concern with this one as well. So any flood prone areas, low-lying areas might see a little bit of a flooding impact as this pushes in just because of that heavy rain that we're getting on top of a round of heavy rain and a lot of hail that many areas just saw. So I do want to give you guys a heads up on that. That's certainly going to be a possibility here. And as you track it over the last 15 minutes, you can see the motion that this storm is taking. I'll zoom out just a little bit here. And this area here kind of moving a little bit to the east-southeast. So there's a little bit of a southern pull to this one. So we might start to see some of those higher impacts, at least from the strongest portion of the storm here, kind of track a little bit more to the south compared to what we just saw with that earlier round of strong thunderstorm activity there. So there's a little bit of good news for some of those areas that were just hit hard. You might miss out just in a few of those areas, especially off to the north as these track through. But we're going to be watching it closely. If we start to see more of a northern pull with that, or it just kind of loses that southern tilt to it, we're going to be dealing with, once again, another round of strong storms right through the same areas that just picked up on a large hail threat not too long ago. Yeah,
you mentioned that lightning. We're seeing almost constant lightning right now as we look out with our city cams across the city right now. A live look. This is going to be looking out toward 90th and Dodge. We're seeing quite a bit of lightning there in the picture. Let's see if that'll load here in just a second, but certainly lots of lightning there in the distance as the storm continues to push across the metro. And I wanted to get a picture here from on top of our tower here in Midtown of what's going on. And we can see all of that lightning off to the west of us right now across Elkhorn into the Boys Town area, moving into Millard as well. Lots and lots of lightning, almost constant lightning with this thunderstorm. So just another sign of just how strong the storm is as it continues to push on through the area. It's just how much lightning it is producing. So certainly going to catch your attention as it moves on through. Looks like the hail threat continues now here across portions of northeastern Lancaster County between Waverly, and Ceresco. Anytime you see there's purples, pinks, and even the whites showing up, that's an indication of lots and lots of hail and perhaps some very large hail. In some cases, we've seen this indicating hail up to 2 inches in diameter. So Waverly over the Greenwood, you are about to be impacted by this very strong thunderstorm. And again, we did have reports that this storm was breaking out windows in portions of southwestern Saunders County. So that is the strongest storm in the area right now. Emily, you continue to track the hail threat into the west side of the metro right now.
Yeah, keeping a close eye on this because we just got a quick round of hail not too long ago, and we're preparing for potentially another one, maybe not quite as intense. So let's pull up my picture here so that we can take a look at that hail threat. Can you guys pull up my weather computer? All right, there we go. You can see these blue shades that are popping up, and this is showing the estimated hail size. And where we have some of these darker blues, radar is estimating just slightly over an inch for the hail size. And it was doing a pretty good job with that last round that rolled through, picking up on that 2-inch hail threat really well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing some 1-inch hail or just saw some 1-inch hail for this area right here. Just out to the east of Skyline Drive, this is making its way out to the east. It's between about West Dodge Road and West Center Road. So right in that corridor there, pushing on to Pacific, traveling out to the east, a little bit of a southern push to it. But let's go ahead and loop this for the last 15 minutes.
We did just get in a report of 1-inch diameter hail from Elkhorn at 9 o'clock.
All right, so it's confirmed. We're picking up on a 1-inch hail threat for sure with this storm. So it's moving right through. This time looks like we're seeing some impacts moving a little bit closer to Dodge Pacific. It's starting to move onto the West Center Road a little bit more here as we take a look at that progression over the last 15 minutes. And pulling up that live radar picture, as we zoom out just a little bit, can see that as we really look off to the north, we're not seeing as much intensity with this storm. So the most intense part of the storm, that's sitting a little bit more to the south. It's not quite as widespread of an intense area as what we were dealing with that earlier round. That was a very intense round for almost everyone in the metro. This is going to be geared toward areas mainly south of Dodge. So, and even maybe mainly south of Center as we continue to see this pull a little bit more to the south as we put that into motion. So, you know, we could see that this has a little bit more of kind of a southern pull to it. So it's moving mainly east, but a little bit south. So I think we're going to see that highest hail threat start to shift south of that West Center road line here over the next 15 minutes or so as that storm continues with its progression.
We do have a new severe thunderstorm warning to tell you about. This is going to be for the storm that is near Waverly. Severe thunderstorm warning for southeastern Saunders County into northeastern Lancaster County. Far southern Sarpy County, although if you're in Sarpy County, I think this storm is going to miss you to the south. Also includes Cass County as well as far northwestern Otoe County. This warning goes until 10 p.m. And we're still looking at the potential for hail to the size of at least ping pong balls, perhaps even larger. We've had larger hail reported with this storm. It is moving off to the southeast about 35 miles per hour, so it's moving into Waverly right now. It'll be moving into the Greenwood area in the next 5 to 10 minutes, Prairie Home by about 9:15 to 9:18. And if it continues on this same track, it'll move into the Murdoch area by about 9:25, Elmwood by about 9:30 or about 20 minutes from now, and Weeping Water in about 30 minutes from now by about 9:38, 9:39. So that is the path that this storm will continue to take if it holds together. And again, the main risk from this storm is damaging hail. And it has been large enough to break out some windows in southwestern Saunders County. So that continues to be a threat that we are watching. I want to show you where the report of hail came in from the Elkhorn area. This is looks to be just west of 204th and Center. That, again, came in around 9 o'clock. Some quarter-sized hail there in Elkhorn. And this continues to push toward 160th and Center. Just south of Dodge. It's moving right along Center Street, it looks like right now, and it'll be approaching 132nd Street and Center here shortly. So that is where the large hail threat continues here in the metro. Western Elkhorn, Waterloo Valley, you have been cleared from the severe thunderstorm warning. You saw that yellow line move there on the screen. That's the National Weather Service updating this warning. It still remains in place for central and eastern Omaha as well as southern Omaha till 9:45 p.m. as well as Millard, portions of La Vista, Papillion, Ralston, and northern Bellevue. This warning remains in place until 9:45. And again, we have quarter-sized hail falling in Elkhorn. We had that confirmed, and this continues to push down Center, moving toward 132nd, and it'll be approaching 120th probably in the next 5 minutes. So we continue to kind of monitor this storm as it moves through the metro area, Emily.
Yeah, keeping a close eye on what everything's doing now and potentially what could happen as we move a little bit forward in time. Now, let's take a look at this particular short range model here, kind of give us an idea of what could happen as the night goes on, because we're not necessarily done with our storm threat. We still have more storms on the way as the night goes on. So as we advance to about 10 p.m., we're bringing in that chance for maybe a little more of that activity that's sitting out to the west of the metro to push on through. So we could get another round as we move through the night in the next hour or so. We're going to have to keep a close eye on what's developing out to the west. This is all moving east, so there's still the chance that we pick up on another round after this. It just depends on where everything is setting up. This model had things a little bit more north initially compared to where they're sitting right now. So there's the chance that this 10 p.m. round winds up just to our south, but we'll have to keep a close eye on it. After 11, however, I think that's really going to be the magic time where we start to see that storm threat around the metro kind of wind down. We might have some weak thunderstorms still ongoing at this point. We might have some areas of showers still holding on, but by 11, I think our main severe window for the metro will be done. It won't be done for everyone. South of the metro, we still have that chance for stronger storms at least through midnight, if not through about 1 a.m. for our far southern counties. And then once we hit 1 o'clock, everyone is pretty much done with that severe weather threat. So we have a busy next couple of hours around the metro for that potential for strong storms. Down to the south of the metro, could be a little bit loud with that potential for some strong storms all the way up through about 1 o'clock. So we're watching where this all develops so we have a better idea of where it's going to progress here over the next couple of hours. But just to give you kind of an idea of what could happen, still looking active here for the next couple of hours.
We do have a report on Twitter now, just in the last few minutes, reporting in a lot of hail at 192nd in Harrison. Also, one of my most Roy from West Bay Woods is reporting quite a bit of hail here as well, so on the west side of Omaha. So this storm, as it moves through the metro, is definitely producing quite a bit of hail. And of course, we did have that report of some quarter-sized hail in Elkhorn. So that's why the severe thunderstorm warning remains in place right now.
Yeah, keeping a close eye, certainly on this storm that's moving through the metro. Just visually, it looks so much different from the last round that moved in. We were seeing a ton of those pink shades and even some white shades showing up, indicating that really large hail that was moving through. We do have some stronger spots in this storm right around that West Center Road, a little something showing up south of Millard where we have some of these brighter pink shades showing up. We still have a lot of strength and intensity with this storm, but it's not as strong as that round that moved through earlier, which is certainly a relief, I'm sure, to a lot of people who are dealing with the threat for 2-inch hail moving in earlier. Now, I do want to point out what I'm seeing here on our estimated hail picture. Take a look at what's shown up here as of the latest scan. What we're not seeing are those blue shades. So we're starting to see this storm maybe lose a little bit of its intensity here and perhaps starting to see that hail threat begin to diminish, or at least a little bit of a lull in terms of that threat for up to 1-inch hail. That doesn't mean we won't see any hail with this storm. It just means that maybe we're picking up on less of that 1-inch hail threat. Right now, estimating about 3/4 of an inch hail moving in as this approaches Millard, Boys Town. This has now cleared the Elkhorn area, but again, we're getting ready for another round of a pretty intense thunderstorm activity moving through a good chunk of the metro here. So even if you don't pick up on that large hail, again, it's still going to be a threat for some gusty winds, some heavy rain, and a ton of lightning as this pushes through.
Yeah, the part of the storm that's over West Omaha right now does look like it's beginning to weaken slightly. We've seen those radar returns diminish a bit. However, down here across Sarpy County, from Gretna right over to about I-80, that has been picking up in intensity slightly here over the last few minutes. So Papillion and La Vista over to Bellevue. Still want you to be prepared for some damaging hail as this storm continues to move your way, as it does look like the portion of the storm that is in Sarpy County is perhaps starting to intensify a little bit. I also want to give a heads up to everybody in Plattsmouth. Yeah, we're watching that storm as well. Likely some hail coming down in Plattsmouth right now. You're not under a severe thunderstorm warning, but this storm has really perked up in the last few minutes, and some estimates by radar are now potentially showing some quarter-sized hail there just south of Highway 34 on the south side of Plattsmouth. So no severe thunderstorm warning here for this portion of Cass County. But in the Plattsmouth area is certainly going to be a noisy storm with likely at least some small hail here in the next few minutes, Emily.
Yeah, and to go back to the storm that's moving through the metro right now, I just got in a report from Twitter at 204th and Q. So this is right over here. This is this area that we're talking about. The storm just moved through. That's now moving through Millard. It's a good video. I just retweeted it if you are interested in looking and seeing what they sent to us. But heavy rain and a lot of small hail. So what I'm not seeing in that video is any very large hail. So the hail threat with this, at least when it was over at 204th and Q, was not quite as high, especially compared to what we were dealing with earlier. So that 1-inch hail threat may be coming down a little bit, but still something that bears watching as the storm continues to progress out to the east.
And we're still keeping a very close eye on this thunderstorm that's affecting the Waverly area down into Eagle, Nebraska, western Cass County. just north of Highway 34 there in western Cass County. This storm is still showing signs of some potentially very large hail. We're still seeing these pinks, purples, and even some of these white hail cores, which still indicates to me that hail is likely at least 1.5 inches in size, if not larger. This is impacting I-80 and Highway 6 between Waverly and Ashland right now. Hopefully anybody in that area has been able to find shelter. And this is going to continue to move toward Murdoch and Elmwood. This is staying south of Ashland. You're going to get some heavy rain in Ashland and certainly some intense lightning and thunder. But the hail core is likely to move toward Murdoch, Elmwood, and Eagle here over the next 15 minutes. And again, this continues to be the strongest storm in the area. As I kind of take a wider look here, you can see we are still tracking 3 severe thunderstorm warnings right now, one for Montgomery County near Red Oak. Severe thunderstorm warning remains in place there, right over Omaha. Severe thunderstorm warning. That storm not as strong as it was a few minutes ago. And then our intense thunderstorm moving into western Cass County, northwestern Otoe County. Potential for large hail continues right in that zone. Of course, right here in the metro, we continue to monitor this thunderstorm capable of producing some quarter-sized hail, although that hail size may be coming down slightly. Right now located around 132nd and Center down to Harrison Street all the way down into the Gretna area. Anywhere you see those pink colors showing up on the radar, that is where we're seeing some the potential for some large hail. But certainly does not look as intense as the previous storm. So that is some good news right there, Emily.
Yeah, it definitely is. Again, that strongest storm, that's the one that's down to the south of the metro. We've been talking about that one with all that intense hail, just out now to the east of Waverly, north of Eagle. But we're keeping a close eye on this storm as it moves through the metro, and it's really starting to break up. So I'm going to loop you through the last 15 minutes here. As we put this into motion, you can kind of see the progression of the storm as it moves out to the east. It's starting to become a little bit messy. We have lost a little bit of the energy in that area, the available energy. Since that earlier storm moved through, it cooled us down quite a bit. So there's just a little bit less energy there for this storm to work with as it travels east, which is great news. But we still have that threat for maybe some smaller hail moving through, some gusty winds, plenty of lightning. Let's take a look at our lightning tracker here. As we zoom in, you can see it's really lighting up the screen, not quite as intense as it was earlier, but around Boys Town, Millard, and as we look west from Ralston, La Vista, Papillion, you're probably seeing quite a bit of lightning, also probably hearing a lot of that thunder as the storm approaches. So heavy rain also going to be a concern. That hail threat, as we pull up our hail tracker tool, we're really just seeing a lot of those grays showing up. Estimated hail size as we query this area, all under 1/2 inch at this point. So as it continues to make its way out to the east, I think we'll continue to see that hail threat just diminish a little bit more and more as we start to see this storm continue to break up.
And I want to give an update to anybody who may be watching from Montgomery County, the Red Oak area, Emerson over to Red Oak along Highway 34. Still watching this intense thunderstorm. We did just get in a video from Alec in Red Oak on Twitter showing the impacts of that storm in the Red Oak area. And certainly a very intense thunderstorm, but it looks like the hail threat has come down slightly. You may still get some hail in Red Oak, Coburg, Emerson, Stanton, but the good news is it does not look like we're getting those very large, very threatening hailstones that we were seeing from this storm earlier. So still a threat for some quarter-sized hail here in portions of central and southern Montgomery County, but as I put this into motion, you can see that those purples and the whites have kind of diminished over the last 30 minutes. So still a very intense thunderstorm over Montgomery County. Severe thunderstorm warning remains in place for the area until 10 o'clock, but the hail size is coming down slightly. So that's certainly some good news. And it looks like the storm coming through the metro is losing some steam as well, Emily.
Yeah, just about 4 minutes ago, I'm checking through some reports on Twitter. 170th and Q, someone tweeted in roughly pea-sized hail. So looks like we're starting to see this storm diminish a little bit, but everything that I'm seeing still shows very intense rain, a lot of lightning, so not necessarily out of the woods here as the storm continues out to the east. There's still some strength with it, but the good news is it's losing a lot of its intensity, especially compared to that round that we were tracking earlier. I know no one wants to have another 2-inch hail event back to back, and it certainly does not look like this is going to be the case here with this storm continuing to lose some steam as it makes its way out to the east. You can see that here as we put this into our 15-minute loop. As it moves east, it's really starting to break up and really look a lot less intense, less organized compared to what it looked like as it was just pushing in to the west end of the metro, which is certainly good news. But just because we're starting to see that severe threat diminish for now around the metro does not mean it's quiet all across the area. We are still dealing with a couple of intense areas of storms that are bringing in a larger hail threat, and you can see those areas quite clearly here. We have this storm here just south of the Friend area. We're talking about the potential for some large hail here. You can see those white shades showing up here on that radar picture. This is bringing in that potential for 2-inch hail through Saline and Seward counties. And then as we travel again just off to the north and east of that, this storm now east of Lincoln, we're talking about still very large hail potential, 2.5-inch hail with this. This is impacting Ashland, Eagle, Louisville, Weeping Water, all picking up on that very large hail threat right now.
Yeah, I'm taking a closer look at that storm right now, Emily, in Cass County. This is far southwestern Cass County, still impacting portions of I-80 between Ashland and Waverly, right in here, but it is just about done with I-80 at this point. But the Eagle and Elmwood areas, those are the places that I'm most concerned about. I think this storm will pass south of Louisville. It's going to pass south of South Bend, but Eagle over to Elmwood, over to Weeping Water, that's where the large hail threat is going to continue. You can see some of the estimated hail sizes here getting close to 2 inches right now. So this is a powerful thunderstorm as it continues to move through western Cass County, Murdoch, Eagle, Elmwood, south and east of Waverly, south of Ashland. That's where this hail core continues to really kind of pound the area there west of Weeping Water, and it will continue to move to the east and to the southeast with that threat for, again, up to 2-inch, maybe 2.5-inch diameter hail. So that would be hail approaching the size of tennis balls right now, affecting Eagle and Elmwood, and just in the Murdoch area west of Weeping Water. Alvo also being impacted by this thunderstorm there in western Cass County. So again, that stays south of Louisville. It stays south of South Bend. But the Murdoch area over toward Weeping Water and Elmwood, you're going to be under the gun here shortly with the potential for 2-inch diameter hail. And that is certainly something you don't want to be caught outdoors in. You want to be indoors, away from windows, as that storm pushes through the area. Still monitoring storms here in the metro. One strong storm on top of Plattsmouth right now, just east of Plattsmouth near Highway 34.
And I do have an update on that
I-29.
one.
Yep.
As it moves right onto the interstate here, the good news is it has lost a little bit of steam as of that latest scan. And then we do have a report coming in, National Weather Service chat, Pea-Sized hail and heavy rain around Plattsmouth. So as far as a hail threat, maybe a little bit on the smaller side with this one.
And it really looks like the storm in the immediate Omaha metro has lost quite a bit of steam as well. Certainly still some very, very heavy rainfall. But we're not seeing that hail signature so much anymore here in town.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they cancel this warning a little bit early here, just because it has lost quite a bit of its intensity very clearly. And as we query this, again, that's set to expire at 9:45, so I do wonder if they're going to let that run a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I suspect we will see the warning canceled if the trend continues. So that's certainly some good news here in Omaha. If you live near 72nd and Dodge, 90th and Dodge, some heavy rainfall right now up near Maple and 680, some heavy rain, some lightning and thunder. Maybe some Pea-Sized hail near the I-80, 680 junction. as well as L and I-80. You may be seeing some pea-sized hail there. Harrison Street and I-80, some heavy rain, some pea-sized hail, but we're not seeing that large hail threat. To my eyes, I'm not seeing a large hail threat with this thunderstorm anymore.
Yeah, and as we take a look at the storms as a whole, taking this wider view right here, this is what we're really focusing in on. Do you see these areas of stronger storms? This is all kind of drifting down to the southeast, and off in this area here, we're not seeing much redevelopment. So I think once this round kind of tracks down to the southeast, we might really start to quiet down a little bit earlier just because of this intensity here that we had a little bit earlier than expected. As we move through the night tonight, we might have a little bit of a quieter late night, potentially, if we don't see any more redevelopment out to the north and west. So,
yeah, this is likely going to be the main line of storms here. Temperatures behind these storms dropping into the lower 60s, so it's really taking out most of the energy from the atmosphere. So it is coming through a little bit quicker than perhaps what models were showing, but that's not too unusual when you get a line of storms. They typically tend to outpace the models a little bit. So that's certainly some good news. Once these storms moved on through, we may have an hour or so of some steady rainfall, which is never a bad thing.
No, we'll
At
take
least
it.
with the dry weather we've had for much of this year, we will certainly take that. But it does look like once this current storm moves through the metro, our severe weather threat will be kind of winding down. And you can see where the heaviest rain is right now, lining up along 680. Down to the 680 I-80 split, and then down I-80 into the Gretna area. That's where we're seeing some of that heaviest rainfall. It's going to be moving into Benson and Dundee here shortly, and then that will spread into Midtown and downtown. But that large hail risk really looks to be decreasing here for the immediate Omaha metro.
We do have a flooding threat, though, to talk about.
Okay.
So let's go over some of that heavy rain that has fallen. They just issued a flood advisory. It includes most of the metro. This is going to run until about midnight tonight. So let's go ahead and pull up the text on this and see what they're saying about this. I'm not surprised to see it. I've been mentioning quite a bit through the course of these storms that have moved through that flooding is going to be a little bit of a concern, especially now that we have seen that second round of rain. Although we don't have that same hail intensity, it's still a very heavy rain event for us. So it estimates that up to 1.5 inches of rain has already fallen a really short amount of time, and we have more falling on top of that. So this is what's prompting that advisory to be issued. It's just letting you know flood-prone areas really are going to be at the highest risk here. So any low-lying areas that usually flood, if you know of any trouble spots that usually give you a problem when we have heavy rain, try to avoid those. And really do not drive through any standing water, any flooded roadways, especially flowing water. You don't know the condition of the road underneath that water, and you really don't know how deep that water is. It really puts you in an unsafe position, and of course, rescuers in an unsafe position as well if it comes to that.
Yeah, and just looking at some of the estimated rainfall totals here for that advisory area, you can see the outline there of the box for that flood advisory. But radar estimating anywhere from an inch to, an inch and a half near Millard right there. As you get out toward Elkhorn, again, an inch to an inch and a half. So, it's not huge amounts of rainfall, but it did come in a very quick fashion. It fell very, very quickly over the course of, about 30 minutes in many spots. And then we're getting some rain on top of that. So that could cause some poor drainage areas to have some flooding issues. But we're not looking at major flash flooding of creeks and streams here around the area.
And good news is, although we do have that flooding concern for the metro now, they have gone ahead, as David and I were mentioning, they've canceled that warning early, no longer seeing a big hail threat. You might still see some small hail as this tracks through, but we have shifted to more of a heavy rain threat as we move through the remainder of the night. And once this round of rain moves out, we're going to kind of quiet down as far as the intensity, but we might see some steady rain continuing to fall there. And of course, these cells down to the south of the metro will continue to keep a close eye on these. Another one out near Red Oak. There are some spots, some trouble spots that are going to continue to bring us that threat for some large hail as the night moves on. But, as we put this into motion here, let's go for the last 15 minutes. You can see where these storms are headed. They're all kind of pushing down to the southeast, and once they move out of your area, you are likely done with severe activity for the remainder of the night. So our concern moving forward is going to shift more and more to the south as the night goes on. And unless you have another update for us, David, I think we're going to go ahead and send it back to regular programming ahead of our 10 o'clock show. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, just we'll continue to keep an eye on that storm moving through Cass County, moving toward the Elmwood area. It does look like the hail potential there is decreasing somewhat. Still a strong storm, so we'll keep an eye on that, but definitely we're going to kind of regroup here and get ready for 10 o'clock.
All right, we'll see you back here at 10. Join us for continued coverage on the storms that are moving through.